With that, standing by. We're starting. All right. So welcome everybody to tonight's Zoom call. This is the Activators Weekly Call, usually hosted by Julie White and Kurt Heisey, both of whom are unavailable tonight. You may see them sneak in somehow. They're both away and they're supposed to be on vacation. So if you see them, you should shame them on their phone with an SMS or a text and tell them to go back to co-playing. They should not be here tonight. But I know how this is. Sometimes it's, you know, who's presenting or who's sharing on the call, so it's just too good to miss. And so sometimes I'll sneak on when we're away as well. Today is Monday, July 23rd, 2018. And this Zoom will be recorded and available later after Julie gets the link, and we'll get that out to her team. So with that, I'll tell you a little bit about my story, and then I'll kick it over to our special guest tonight. My wife and I live in Kansas City in a little suburb called Lee Summit. We've been here about 10 years. We've been in Kansas City overall for 12 years, and we were introduced to something that was life-changing. We came out of a Christian missionary background. We served overseas with Youth with a Mission, or YWAM, as we're affectionately known, and were introduced to a life-changing technology, probably 8 years ago. And that has precipitated a whole change in our trajectory and our ministry, and being able to offer people something very substantive on a physical, mental, emotional, financial level. And we realize the world desperately needs what we have. And so the purpose of this call tonight, if you're brand new, if you're checking this out, somebody sent you a link and you don't know what you're doing here, we're talking about our culture, how business is done. Indeed, if you're a person of faith, how ministry is being done now in the 21st century, how we are creating platforms of influence and connecting people. That really is the currency of heaven, in my opinion. And we have tonight an exceptional young leader in our current company in the industry of network marketing. Some people call it personal franchising. And we're moving in the direction of internet marketing, which is the hot new way to market commodities and services in the 21st century. Miss Stephanie Keisman is a new friend. She's a fantastic leader. She and her husband, Stuart, live in Grandview, Missouri, just down the street from us, about 15 minutes from here. And Stephanie is bringing a lot to her table, not just with her skill set, but as becoming a voracious student of the industry, of her profession, and is quickly distinguishing herself as, I don't want to call you a rock star, because that, I think, cheapens all that you are, Stephanie. But if you will, take some time to talk about, and I've got some questions for you, but I'd love to hear your story, how you and Stuart came to Kansas City, how you first saw this, and why, when you first saw how profound this was, and I'm assuming at some point you've become passionate about it and saw that you wanted to do this intentionally, why have you chosen specifically the platform of online marketing? Like, how we're kind of moving into a new generation, a new iteration of sharing personal franchising, network marketing, multi-level marketing, whatever you want to call it. Can you just speak to that a little bit and share with us why you saw the online platform as the direction you want to go? Let me unmute you. I got you muted. Hang on just a second. And I should pass over some host administrative responsibilities to you as well.
Yikes.
There you go. Your host. There you go. I'm out.
Great. Thank you. So hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Keisman, and just really thankful and happy to be here right now. It's true, I live in Grandview, Missouri with my husband and two little boys, aged 5 and almost 3. And we've been in Kansas City now for about 6.5 years. And we came to get started with a ministry called the International House of Prayer, which my husband works for full-time. I have served in various capacities since we got here. But once I became a mom, that was my full-time deal. And I have always had an interest in natural health. And when I ran into Donna Edwards at a park about a year ago, and she was telling me about this pill that could cause your body to make more antioxidants, that actually meant something very profound to me. And I knew enough about the science behind it to know that it was a very big deal and that very few people knew about it, because I had listened to the best of the best in kind of that area of science, and had never heard of anyone talk about this kind of technology. And so when I heard about it for the first time, I knew that, first of all, this is something that can help everybody. This is something that can do so much good in the human body. And then I also knew nobody's heard of this yet. And if I can somehow figure out how to get this information into the hands of as many people as possible, then I can change their lives and potentially change their financial lives too. And I can also change the trajectory of our own financial lives. And so my husband and I are kind of natural entrepreneurs. We've had a number of different businesses. We've had a wedding photography business. We've had a car rental business. We've run an Airbnb. My husband still has an eBay store that he finds lost freight and inventory and at auction and sells it on eBay. We've done a whole lot of things. We're also full-time missionaries. And so we've done a lot of stuff. But I'd never, ever done network marketing until I found out about LifeVantage. And I didn't have a really bad experience with network marketing. I know a lot of people, sometimes they come in with just some hangups. And I don't know that I had those hangups. I actually knew people who have been pretty successful in the industry, but I had just up to that point never found anything that I was super passionate about enough to want to not only share with anyone and everyone, but also help build a team in that regard. And so I just never really saw it as a legitimate option for me or us as a family. But when I started looking at just the kind of the specs, the information, the timing of this particular company, the fact that nobody else knew about our flagship product and the science behind it was just so rock solid. I felt kind of that sensation, like this is one of the few times in a person's life when you hear about something before the masses do. And so I got to jump on this now, and I got to give it the best shot that I have, so that I can change people's lives. And so I jumped in, and I knew nothing about the industry. I had no idea where to start. I didn't even know. So for those of us who have been distributors for longer than like 6 months, or maybe just a few months, when my distributor pack came in the mail, I did not even know that there was a blueprint in the box. Like I had no idea what I was doing. And so I just started, I started trying to talk to people. I mean, I just, started sharing, and people were turned off by a lot of my science talk, because I was kind of a geek like that. And I'm sure a lot of us have been there. But I knew early on that I had work hours available to me, but most of my time was spent at home. My kids, they still nap, or at least the 3-year-old does every day. And I knew I'd have a few hours a day that I could put into this, but I really needed to be at home. It was difficult for me to imagine the people that I had relationship with in my everyday life, the people who I might have some kind of, positive influence in their lives. It was hard for me to imagine being able to bring them to an in-person meeting. And I tried, I tried doing that, and occasionally was able to do that. But most of the people that I know, that I'm friends with, that I have close relationship with, most of them are like me. They're moms of young kids. 7 o'clock is the time when we're all, wrangling those little ones and trying to get them into bed and trying to keep our sanity, and asking a mom of young kids to come to a 7 o'clock business presentation, unless they have a strong belief that this is something that's going to change their lives. I mean, that is a big ask, not only for them, but also for their families. And so I was very grateful early on to have my husband's support. He's been very supportive ever since the beginning. He saw that even though he didn't quite understand the significance of the business itself, he saw the potential of what it could do in me and the confidence that it could help build in me as a mom who my identity had just been kind of wrapped up in my kids, and just trying to figure out who was I post babies, you know? And so he just was wise and humble enough to basically do everything he could to just say, you know, jump into this and do it as well and as hard as you can for at least a year. Like, do not give up for at least a year, and we'll reevaluate then. And so that was kind of how we got started. And I knew, I think just because of my circumstances, that the way I was going to be able to reach the most people was through Facebook, honestly. And it wasn't because I had a fear of interacting with people. It was just because a lot of my friends, they're not even in this area. They're not local. Phone calls are not a very common method of communication in, I don't want to say my generation, because I don't know, I'm barely a millennial, honestly. But I just, I know people my age, we just generally don't like making phone calls. And so that seemed like a strange way to communicate with my friends and family about it. But using Facebook was just something I knew I had to figure out. How are the best of the best using Facebook and social media in general to help grow their businesses? So
you caught me with a quick stop, so I had to unmute myself.
Oh, sorry.
So tell me, so you've described, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, sort of the rise of the momtrepreneur, as we're calling you guys now. Young moms, or maybe not young moms, moms,
Sure.
who have these amazing skills, and a lot of them are highly educated, but they have chosen to embrace, you know, the family that God's given them, and so their time are constraints. Tell me what you've loved and what you've learned about your demographic or your socioeconomic peers, and the thing that you're passionate about. Obviously, you're being very effective beyond just the momtrepreneur. So I think, you know, we all are compelled to see what you're doing, Steph, and you know, we're just my hat's off to you. I'm so appreciative and encouraged by what you've been able to do in such a short time. But just speak to a little bit about what you've learned, what you've loved, and the direction you see the online marketing going with what we've got our hands on.
Sure. So I guess I would say I love that just about everything that I have done. I mean, I would say probably 90% of, probably more than that, 95% of my business I've been able to do from home. And now, does it all take time? It totally does, but I haven't had to, it's like I'm still able to be there and to be present for my family. And beyond that, I feel like the experience of doing this business and connecting with other moms on this very purposeful level has brought just a richness to my life in relationships and helping invest my heart and myself into other people's success. I love that that's just a hallmark of this industry, is that I can't be successful unless I can help those that I've brought with me be successful. And that's very gratifying and edifying. And I feel like just a lot of the moms on my team, I mean, it's so funny to think that, you know, God would use this little business to really like help us come into our callings and just kind of come out of our shells and kind of become who we were made to be. I mean, I don't want to like over spiritualize network marketing, but I'm seeing a lot of my friends, like all of us kind of went through these phases together where we had kids and we kind of got lost in this mom fog. And now we're all kind of starting to come out of it, and we're like, we can do this. Like we can build inheritances for our children. Like this is huge. And we have this sense of just really, we're a team and we're doing this together and we're not going to give up. Like we're in this. So I think that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, the mom fog.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Totally stealing that.
Struggle is real.
Totally using that. So for those of us that don't come from a familiarity with social media, so
Yeah.
A lot of us dinosaurs, we're kind of coming to grips with the inevitability that, yeah, we're going to be on Facebook. We need to be on Instagram. My kids don't even touch Facebook. They have no idea what Facebook is. They're all Instagram all the time.
Yeah.
Other platforms like Snapchat and Twitter. So somebody like me, or somebody that's brand new looking at the possibility of going online for the first time, what would be your recommendations to do that? We hear sort of an encouragement to brand ourselves, to share our expertise. Well, for those of us that are recovering knucklehead, I don't, heretofore, I haven't really seen myself as an expert in anything.
Sure.
There's still so much to learn. So how would you speak to the brand new person that wants to create an online presence, do's and don'ts, and what should they do first?
Sure. Okay. So I think in order to really like go at this in a productive way, it's really important to kind of understand some foundational principles. And one of the main things is just that in terms of relationships, social media is very similar, like to actually talking with people in person. If you are a relational person, if you're someone that you have an easy time sharing and talking with people in person, it's very likely that is going to translate over into social media. And conversely, if that is something that you struggle with, if you have a hard time building relationships in person, you could do all of the right things on social media and still not really see results, because it's really about the relationship. All right. And so you have to think about what makes a person worth following, and think about like the people in your life, in your lives that you respect and honor the most, the people that you want to be like, that you want to be around. What kind of qualities do they have? And I would say for me, like, I really respect people who are vulnerable. I respect people that are encouraging and positive in their thinking and the way that they speak. We all want to be around someone that makes us feel like we're better than we know we are. It's like when someone can tell you you're a rock star, it's like, even if you don't believe it, you want to be around them more because they're edifying your heart and you feel drawn to them. So encouragement is huge. People who you want to follow are confident. They believe in themselves. They might be self-deprecating to, with humor, but they believe in the dignity of themselves and other people. They're empathetic. They're consistent. Like, they show up. You see them regularly. Okay. So I'm sure there's a lot more, but those are some of my top qualities of a person that I want to follow. And whether you're building this business in person or whether you're building it on social media, you want to start becoming a person that other people want to follow. And it's okay if you're not there yet. All right. It's that we all start at a place. I mean, I was in a completely different place a year ago than I am today. I wouldn't say that I'm by nature a really strong leader. I am kind of quiet. I don't mind taking charge, but I'm very I want a task list. I want someone to tell me what to do. And then I want to be able to check off that I've done things. I'm not, traditionally, I have not been like a big visionary kind of person. And so there's so much that, I mean, I've just had to like kind of grow in slowly as the last year's gone by. But it's really important that you kind of just take inventory of in those things, in vulnerability, in confidence, in your listening skills, in your consistency, in dependability, and humility. Just take a little bit of inventory. And if you're really brave, you could ask someone that loves you, that you're really close to just kind of give you some feedback on some of those areas of your life. And then you want to think about, how is that going to translate to social media? Okay, as you're working on your own personal development, as you're growing as a person, you're becoming more like Jesus, and you're becoming more of the person who's going to lead a future team. I think if you can think about those qualities, it's not that hard to translate a lot of that to Facebook. And Facebook is honestly kind of my main thing right now. I just haven't had the time to really dive into Instagram a whole lot. I mean, I'm on Instagram, but I just don't use it much right now. So Facebook is kind of my thing. And there's some things I've noticed about people who are really successful on Facebook. And so one of the biggest ones is vulnerability. They are not afraid to let people see them. And they don't try to be perfect. Like, they will let people see their faults. They'll own the stuff that they do wrong. And they're willing to let people kind of go on this journey with them. And that is very attractive. Okay. And so whether you do that through text or through video, which I would totally encourage you, if you can step out and take people along your journey in live video on Facebook, you will get a whole lot more action on your profile than just doing status updates with text. But however you start, vulnerability is huge. Also, positivity. You want to add value to people's lives. Okay. And so if half of your Facebook status updates are things where you're venting about something that you're upset about, no judgment here, but that is not going to attract the kind of people that you want in your business. And it also doesn't add value to people's lives. Like, you want them to want to be around you. You want to be a person worth following. Also, people who are successful on Facebook, they're very consistent with their posting. And so if I could tell anyone to start somewhere, this is probably what I would advise them to do. I would say, start by making a goal of updating your status on your page once a day for the next month. Okay. And if you need to spend some time, like a couple hours where you plan everything out, and, I wish we had the ability to schedule posts on our personal Facebook profiles, but you can't do that. So, open up your Word document, type out something, but it doesn't have to be that hard. It really could just be a simple thought. It could be something that, a scripture that stuck out to you from the devotional that you read this morning. Or it could just be something funny that your kids say. That's something I love sharing about. I love sharing about the funny things that my kids say, or the observations that they have. That's just one of my favorite things to share. But let it be a little peek inside of your heart, and post once a day. And I would say that would be my first encouragement, or the first step that I would recommend someone who's really unfamiliar. It really could only take a minute for you to do that. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to write a long post. You could write 2 sentences, but make sure it's encouraging. Make sure that it's, I would lean towards just being a little bit vulnerable. You don't have to start off by bearing like your soul in your first post, but you can just be honest. Like, I'm not on Facebook much. This is my first post, but I love seeing it, everyone here, and I want to connect more. So, I mean, you can just talk about the process of how you're learning how to post on Facebook. You can do that. People will respect that, they won't feel used by it.
Yeah, I just would affirm your process as well, Stephanie, and being transparent and vulnerable as you've grown your organization and your following on Facebook, particularly. It's been really refreshing. And you know, we have a saying quite often that you got to get outside your comfort zone. You really got to push the boundaries. And really, what I'm perceiving or what I'm feeling in social media is not so much, maybe. You just share the things that you're passionate about, and in that, you know, that's attractive to other people who see the world the way we do, and
Yeah.
philosophically. And as far as material from small children saying cute things, that's an endless supply. So you are the source of a fount of great content there. And you talk just a little bit, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds about adding and tagging and messaging, sort of the mechanics. That's probably a good follow-up Zoom for a future day. But will you speak to the conversion process? So as you're growing your influence, your circle of reach, talk about how you're moving people on that proverbial conveyor belt to getting the information that they need to make a decision, and then how you help them make that decision. Because I think there's a misunderstanding when we start talking about social media that there's some magical formula that once you have followers, somehow that they just join your business. And I think that's a misjudgment. So could you just speak quickly to that, and then we'll wrap.
Sure. Yeah. So my experience, and I don't honestly know how typical this is, but I would say that so there are several Facebook groups that LifeVantage distributors from any team can join that have basically testimonies about people's experiences on our products, and people's experience with running the business and growing their businesses. And so once I started kind of like wrapping my mind around these groups, I created my own testimony group, but nobody else has to. You can use ones that are already there, and we can talk about the names of those groups later. But when you add people to those groups and you tag them in a relevant post that you think would speak to them, and then send them a private message saying, hey, Angela, I just tagged you in this post in the group CEO, and we were talking the other day about how you were looking to make some extra money at home, and I thought that you might really see some value in this. Would you take a look at it? So I started doing that kind of within my team's own groups more. And the process has been sort of interesting because a lot of the people that I initially, approach and do the ATM method with, a lot of them don't become customers or distributors right away. But there just seems to be kind of this sowing and reaping effect that as I do that a lot, other people are seeing, they're seeing what's happening. They're seeing it on my personal Facebook page. Maybe I've added them to these testimonial groups, and they're seeing it in there. I don't entirely know why this all has worked, because a lot of times the people that then start coming to me and saying, hey, I'm ready, how do I get started? They were people that maybe I had talked to a long time ago. Some of them not even. Some of them, they're just observing. So I think one of the things you just kind of have to understand is that you have to sow a lot of seeds, and you don't know who is watching as you sow all of those seeds, but you have to sow a lot of them on social media, and it starts stirring up activity. And then I've just noticed that people start approaching me after that, to the point where it's I don't have a lot of time to do active prospecting right now, because I have so many people now coming to me. And in the beginning, that wasn't so much the case. It was a little bit more of you know, doing the dance of trying to assess interest. Are they open to the opportunity? Are they open to a new solution? And a lot of times those would not end up going anywhere, at least not in the beginning. Those people sometimes would evaluate, I think after time, they would kind of see that I was real, that I wasn't going to just jump out, you know, I was going to bail the business. And so I think they've grown in trust for me. But initially, I had a lot of resistance, probably just like everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. There's a concept that I'm becoming familiar with called social proof.
Mm-hmm.
That it's a little bit like sitting in a booth next to somebody who's talking about something that you really want to hear, but you don't want to look like you're eavesdropping. And so I think there's a lot of that observational level trickle down effect that you're describing, that people are watching to see if you're authentic, if you're legitimate, if you're humble, you know, if you're a jerk or not. And I think that is compelling over time. So that consistency, the persistence that you're describing, I think is huge. And I'm learning so much by watching folks like you. So I don't want to take too long. I know everybody's got there's plenty of things to be doing on a Monday night, especially if you've got kids. So I don't want to hold you. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on this really great Zoom. I'm sure it'll be replayed many, many times over. Talk about, just real quickly, some resources that people can take advantage of. Become a student of this particular part of our profession. Where would you send them to equip themselves and empower themselves to do sort of similarly as you've done?
Sure. So there's a few people that I follow and study everything that they do as much as I can. One of them is Eric Worre. He if you know anything about Eric Worre, his son is on our corporate staff, and his mother is one of the distributors in our company. He is like the guru of training network marketers. He's got a great class called Social Media Mastery. And I feel like for anyone, even if you're new, I feel like that is something that if you will purchase his class, I think you would get so much value from just kind of the step-by-step. He lays a great foundation, and then he gives a lot of practical tools. Now, there's free resources that I follow. There's a Facebook group called Soul CEO with Rachel Jackson. Rachel Jackson is a Pro 9 in LifeVantage, and I have modeled a lot of what I've done after what I've learned from her and her team, and her and Tara Wilson. And so I highly recommend that. There's also a Facebook group that I really enjoy called Storytelling Entrepreneurs. And if you join that, it's just all about using mostly video on Facebook to kind of share your life and share your story. And they don't have anything to do with network marketing really, or LifeVantage, but I feel like their approach is very helpful. And so I also look at those.
Right on. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Yeah. And obviously this is a conversation that will continue for as long as we do this, because clearly this is where the industry is going.
Sure.
And with 1.8 billion people on Facebook, why would you not leverage this tool to reach more people than we can come in contact with in a day physically?
Definitely.
So, a couple questions on the chat. How often would you say folks should post live Facebook feeds? How often would you do a live Facebook?
So I would do a live video, and this is something I'm actually just kind of starting to try and jump into. So I'm not an expert in this matter, but from everything that I've read and heard, you want to be doing a live video at least once a week, and preferably 2 to 3 times a week. And one of the things you just want to know about live video is that so video makes up about 80% of what you see in the Facebook news feed. However, it's only, I think, 1%
yeah, that's right.
of content that is actually shared on Facebook. And what this means is that if you can dominate video, if you can figure out video, and if you can do it consistently, I know it's kind of scary for most of us, but if you can do that, you are ahead of the game, and you're going to have so much more access to people. Like, you will kind of build instant credibility simply by being in the video often. Another thing that's helpful to know is that unlike with YouTube, where people are drawn to 3 to 5 minute, maybe 10-minute long episodes, on Facebook Lives, it's actually been recommended, I've heard Rachel Jackson talk about it before, that you go a little bit longer, and maybe up to like 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes, when you feel comfortable doing that. Because as long as your Facebook, as long as you're going as you're live, there's kind of this like notification out there in Facebook world. And it's estimated that only, I think, about 5% of your friends on your friends list will actually see your live video. But the longer that it's on, the more opportunity that people have to see that you're there. And so as you can start building length into those videos, that it's recommended. Now, I know that's not a place for everyone to start, but just so you know what you're working towards, I guess, interaction with your engagement with your guests, and a little bit longer in the videos.
Yep. Thank you. Perfect. And that's one of the things that those of us that are new to the table are really working on: the engagement, recognizing people, and just getting people to respond as they're coming on. And your comments earlier in this Zoom reminded me of something that Dale Carnegie says in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you've not read that, I want to highly encourage you to get your hands on that book as a life book. Top 3, easy. But he talks about being lavish in your praise and rich in your approbation, which just means be kind and encourage people, affirm them, let them know that you see them. And so when people are jumping on your live feed, recognize them. Say, wow, Marcy, it's so good to see you. Girl, we need to catch up. And that engagement is so compelling for people because they don't get seen. They don't get affirmed. They're not recognized or appreciated. And I think for the folks that are reaching out on Facebook for life, I think that's so life-giving that it's just compelling. And I would want to join that team of people that leader who saw me, who recognized me, who affirmed me. So thank you for sharing that part of it as well, Steph. It's 20 till the top of the hour, so I'm going to cut the call here. This particular playback will be available in a recorded form on the Activators Facebook page. I'm assuming that link will go out fairly widely, but it won't happen until Julie gets back home. I won't receive it that I know of. If I do, I'll get it right over to Julie so she can post it, or perhaps Kurt. But whoever gets it first, we'll get it out as quick as we can in a raw, unedited form, I can assure you. And you guys feel free to use that as you see fit. I want to thank Stephanie Keisman, awesome friend and leader and sister in the Lord. Thank you, sister, for jumping on. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We'll get you back to what you were working on. And with that, we'll say bye for now. Love you guys. See you.
Goodbye, Mark.
Bye, Stephanie.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mark. Bye, Stephanie. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Pleasure.
Bye. Thank you.
God bless you. Yes, Stephanie. Thank you.
Get back to Captain Kangaroo, Mark.
I see Mike. Yeah.
Captain Kangaroo came on before Romper Room.
All right, everybody.
Thanks again, Stephanie.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye for now.